We got a new word.
Lawsplaining?
Lawsplaining. You got mansplaining. We got lawsplaining.
This is GRL Law, the podcast where the GRL team tells you why they're different. Who the hell are they? Why should you want them fighting for you? The industry leader in law with over 180 years of combined experience. This team is here to shed light on crucial topics in law to keep you aware and informed, because it comes back to the primary point. We give a damn.
Welcome to GRL Raw Special Edition.
It is a special edition.
We have never thrown up a special edition. It's technically going to be Season 2, Episode 3, if you're counting. But this is a special edition responding to a very important current event in the state of Iowa regarding your alma mater.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the Iowa football scandal. That's what I've named it.
You've called it. Okay, so you've
that's
taken
the title
the liberty.
of my note document.
Then that's what we're going to roll with. So we're not going to do the normal episode in, episode out, do's and don'ts with donuts. We are going to get down to the brass tacks associated with, we're going to deal in the juice.
Yeah.
Going to give some juice on the Iowa football civil rights settlement that literally just happened this week.
It did happen this week, and we have been reading.
Oh my God, have we been reading?
We have been reading.
And we are going to do, this is my new word, do some lawsplaining.
That's what we do best.
Lawsplaining. We're going to break down law.
Yep.
Technicalities, jargon, lingo, what went on, how it went on, and we're going to try to break it down in the most simplistic form we can.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about some of the dirt.
We are going to talk about some of the dirt. We found some dirt. We read through the filings. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah. Nobody's reporting on it, so we're going to...
All we've got so far is some statements from the coaches,
which we're going to talk about.
Yep.
And so let's just get right to it. Okay. University of Iowa settled the lawsuit where former black football players sued the school, sued the program, alleging racial discrimination.
Yep.
And the school agreed, and the state agreed to pay a total of $4.2 million.
That is a lot of money.
To settle that claim.
Yes.
That's a lot.
It is.
It's not. So you see cases, and we'll talk about this as we go, but you see cases that get settled for what's called, quote unquote, nuisance value.
Yep. Which
is kind of, they do the math on cost of litigation, and $4.2 million is nowhere near nuisance value money. Now, initially, there was going to be a division of the payment.
Yep.
That the school was going to pay half, or 2.2, and then the taxpayers were going to get stuck with $2 million. I think enough people pitched a bitch about that. The school's footing the whole bill.
As they should.
Give us some background.
So this lawsuit has 12 named plaintiffs,
okay,
and it was filed in November of 2020. And they're alleging that they were demeaned with racial slurs, forced to abandon black hairstyles, fashion, and culture to fit into the Iowa way by Ferentz and other coaches. And they also allege that they would be retaliated against for speaking out. So, big allegations. Big allegations for the University of Iowa football a couple years ago when this all came out and started to be a topic of conversation.
Yeah, it kind of came out around the George Floyd.
Yep.
Shortly after George Floyd, all that started happening. I think it's important to note, and it'll come out, and it's come out already, that this was, I believe, the fourth discrimination lawsuit involving the athletic department in approximately 10 years. It's over now, with this settlement, over $10 million in settlements.
That's abnormal.
It's not normal. It is abnormal, also known as not normal, abnormal. Before, so this is all under Barta as the athletic director. Previous, there was a $6.5 million, I don't remember if it was settled. I think it was a settlement for the former field hockey coach. There's a Title IX settlement to the extent of $400,000, and in this case, $4.2 million. There's been a lot of posturing around the settlement.
Oh, absolutely.
And the timing of the settlement and all that fun stuff. There's been some publicity, what I would call publicity stunts. So let's set that up so that we can break it down a little bit as to why a lot of the rhetoric going on right now is nothing more than a publicity stunt.
I think best way to start this is reading Kirk Ferentz's statement.
Tee it up,
word
sister.
for word.
Tee it up.
I'm greatly disappointed in how this legal matter was resolved. However, I'm grateful for the many players, parents, donors, fans, and others who have remained supportive of our coaches and program during this time. The settlement negotiations took place between Plaintiffs' Counsel and the Attorney General's Office, which represents the University of Iowa in the Board of Regents. These discussions took place entirely without the knowledge or consent of the coaches who were named in the lawsuit. In fact, the parties originally named disagree with the decision to settle, fully believing that this case would have been dismissed with prejudice before trial. A motion for summary judgment was filed, which outlined why the case should have been dismissed. Unfortunately, this settlement was reached between plaintiffs' attorneys and the Iowa Attorney General's Office before the judge had an opportunity to rule on the motion. We've been told the reason for the settlement is financial. As a part of the settlement, the coaches named were dismissed from the lawsuit, and there is no admission of any wrongdoing. For more than 2 years, our program has been unfairly and negatively impacted by these allegations. Members of the staff had their character and reputation tarnished by former members of our team who said things, then recanted many statements when questioned under oath. Today, we move forward. My focus is entirely on the players, coaches, and staff as we prepare for the 2023 season. So the posture is that they had no say in this. The Attorney General's Office settled this lawsuit. It was a financial, for financial reasons that they were settling it, and that the coaches have not admitted any wrongdoing, which he's not wrong about.
He's factually accurate. In no settlement does a defendant ever admit wrongdoing.
No.
Ever. They all say we didn't do anything wrong, but we're paying this money to be done with the case. And in fact, in the releases and in the settlement agreements, they all say there are no admissions of wrongdoing.
Yes.
This is normal.
It's very normal.
For him to say we didn't admit to anything wrong, so what? Don't care.
No, it doesn't matter.
Second, when you were insured by a policy,
yes,
for the most part, except special identified policies,
okay,
as the insured, like your normal car insurance, you have no say on whether your insurance agrees to pay a claim or settle a suit.
Yep.
There are special policies that you can get that say you have to approve any settlements. Not so in this particular case. So for him to complain that they weren't allowed to have a say in this, and, we didn't want to settle it, doesn't matter. That's
welcome to
puffery.
Everyone else that's being sued. Yeah,
it's
nothing that, like, this isn't an abnormal procedural end to a settlement case.
And I think one of the biggest things that people have, or I think one of the interesting responses that people have to this is, well, the coaches and the program should have had their due process chance to be heard.
Yep.
We dug into this case.
We did.
We looked at the filings.
I probably have read, I would say, 3,000 pages, like skimmed at least 5, 6. This is a lot of, it's like heavy pending litigation, and we know how to get into the records. It's settled, and we're like, why don't we maybe take a peek and see what's happening?
So Kirk's barking.
Kirk is barking.
Did Kirk ever make himself available to get asked questions about his program?
Kirk Ferentz and his problem child.
Literally. Brian.
Have not ever been under oath, and I would say from the filings, it appears as if they were trying to avoid raising their hand and taking that oath.
They were never deposed.
They were never deposed.
They never sat and got asked the hard questions under oath by the lawyers from the other side representing the individuals who were claiming to be discriminated against, and opened themselves up to being questioned about their conduct, their knowledge, their recollection of events, correct?
That is correct.
And so for him to say we didn't want this thing settled, but at the same time he apparently didn't see fit to get questioned about the accusations.
They did not want to present a case.
What are we basing that on? Because we're not just talking out of our butts.
No. There were multiple pending motions at the time that the settlement happened that were directly related to this avoidance of the deposition testimony.
So the people suing were saying, hey, we want to depose these guys. We want to put them under oath, and we want to ask them questions.
Yes.
And Kirk and the problem child and some of the other defendants were resisting that and saying, no, we don't get to be deposed.
Yes, and some of their reasonings included upcoming football seasons, which is just like an interesting perspective as a lawyer, because no one gives a shit that you are the head coach of the Iowa football team.
There's doctors that get deposed that have pending surgeries.
Yes.
Right.
Like, most people that are going under oath, like, everyone's busy.
School administrators get deposed during the school season.
Exactly. Like, that is not, your being sued in federal court is not easy for anyone, convenient for anyone. I just think that it's an interesting excuse. But they were pulling at anything. They did not want to be deposed.
Well, and that was clear from the filings that they put. I mean, they literally resisted getting deposed in court filings, saying, you can't depose us.
Well, and they said they were immune from discovery. Multiple, like, we couldn't even go through the amount of documents that were online. But what did become very clear is that they did not want to be deposed.
They didn't want to be deposed, and they didn't want to have to they didn't want to have to produce stuff that they were being asked to produce.
No.
They did everything they could to prevent what we call the discovery process from taking place.
Yes.
Which is exactly contrary to this damn tweet he puts out, or his press release that he puts out saying, I wanted my day in court and I didn't want to settle this case. He also didn't want to present any evidence. He didn't want to have to get questioned.
He didn't want to be sued.
He didn't want his emails to get released, I bet.
Nope.
I guarantee you they were questioning, asking for emails, communications between staff, between everybody else, and they resisted production of these documents and this information.
And it was heavily litigated.
I mean, we looked.
Yes.
There was nothing substantive that actually happened. There was nothing but motions to dismiss, motions for summary judgment, when the defendants never got deposed in the case.
Yep. So it's a couple of them. There were a few that did end up getting deposed, but head honchos.
Problem child.
And the problem child, they were never put under oath.
Big boss, problem child, a couple of others never actually got deposed.
No.
Okay. So, now, I'm a little bit fired up about this.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned. We know that you don't get a $4 million settlement if there's no concerns that are going on.
No.
So generally, what's the basis of the claims that the athletes were making against the program?
So the general theme, I would say, is that they coined it the Iowa way,
Okay.
and that is a almost trigger word that was used by coaches, and it ended up like in becoming a term that basically meant you need to conform to white norms, white culture, and be more like a Midwestern white student athlete.
So, okay, I do want to dive into the whole Iowa way
Yep.
allegation because, you know, it's important for any business, for any entity, for any team, for any program to have a mission statement, right? To have a focal point that guides decisions, that guides behaviors. I like that concept in my head of the Iowa way.
Yep. Hardworking, accountability,
Yeah, I mean it's
respect.
farmer mentality,
Yeah.
ass kicking, hardworking, keep it clean mentality. And when you're saying that, I personally don't have a beef with that. In
Yeah.
fact, I think that's admirable that you want to instill that. And if you want to come to the program, you want to have your education paid for at the program, then you can set expectations and you can say this is what's expected of you. So what's wrong with the Iowa way?
So the Iowa way was really just used as a weapon against the African American players, I would say.
That was the allegation.
Yes,
Yep.
and it encompassed hairstyles, fashion choices, social media posts, limiting political thoughts out loud for the public to see, no earrings, no tattoos. It really was used to take away the individuality and was used disproportionately towards the black players to be used as a weapon to tell them you're acting different than us and we want you to act like us.
Conform.
To conform.
And that was the allegation that the players were making.
Yep.
And obviously the program was, no, actually this is yes, the Iowa way is this is what we expect of players. We want the discipline, we want the commitment, we
Yep.
want the do what's right, do it the right way, do it the hard way, go above and beyond. You know, to me, honestly, that message seems like good coaching, trying to raise kids to do things the right way. I think they can require a little bit of cleaning things up, so
Yeah.
to say. But if you're going to have the Iowa way, and I think this is when we started digging into the complaint and digging into the allegations were in essence that the Iowa way was one way based upon your skin color,
Yep.
and another way if you were darker.
Yep.
If you had if you're black.
The Iowa was used as a weapon.
Yep.
The Iowa way was used as a weapon against the black players. And
What were some of the examples that were used within the lawsuit as far as that disparate treatment? In other words, saying, "Hey, we're having this. We're going to put out." So it's fine to have a standard,
yeah,
but you can't have a standard that changes.
depending on who is violating that standard.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And when you start separating out who the standard applies to and how the standard applies based on race, then you're running into racial discriminatory
That's
action
intentional.
and
Yeah,
conduct.
that's intentional racial discrimination. So some that are coming to mind right now for the Iowa way would be one of the rules that the team has is obviously not getting in trouble with the police.
because Iowa athletes never get in trouble.
Never.
With
but different treatment,
University
worse
Heights
treatment for less severe situations. So I think in the complaint, there's an example that was one of the African-American players that gets pulled over, no citations, just a routine traffic stop, kicked off the team.
Yep. That was the one with that was the one he gets pulled over, has too many people in the car, doesn't have enough seat belts.
Not enough seat belts,
so
no
overcapacity.
citations. Yep. Kicked off the team. But
Suspended.
There's also people that get OWIs, drinking in dorm rooms, white players that aren't getting the same treatment. They're getting extra conditioning after practice.
Yep. And I think that the one example was, you had the young man, the black athlete who gets pulled over, too many kids in the car for seatbelts, too many people in the car for seatbelts. I call them kids because they're in college. He gets suspended, booted, and then the white players get caught with booze in their dorm room or at a party, and they end up having to simply do 100-yard rolls or something like that. Okay, so that's one. What's some of the other examples they used?
Other examples would be forcing to not have hairstyles that are associated with African American culture or fashion. Dreads, braids, fashion that the Iowa coaches perceive to be associated with African American culture. Pretty much every aspect. Like, if you really think about it, these coaches in a college football situation have absolute control over these athletes.
And most of us that never been in that situation don't appreciate and understand the amount of institutional control that exists.
Exactly. And that's the real problem, is not the real problem, but the real harm that came from this is they have absolute control over every aspect of their life for the most part, and they are forcing in every way these players to conform to their ideals of how these players should be.
The hairdos was interesting. So when you look at the accusations there, the coaches are yelling at Doyle in particular, Brian Ferentz are yelling at players to get their haircut, or that's not a football player haircut.
It looks messy. It looks barbaric.
Barbaric was
is
words
one
that
of
were
the
used.
yeah.
And yet, one of my favorite Hawkeyes of all time was Robert Gallery.
I don't know who that is. I'm not gonna
It's
lie.
before your time.
Yeah.
But oh boy, he looked like the Undertaker, like the wrestler Undertaker. He had long hair. He was an amazing tackle, offensive tackle. Just a phenomenal athlete. But he had hair down to his shoulder. And then recently, C.J. Beathard.
Yep.
Golden boy. He had the long flowing hair. I think once he was first string, he might have chopped his hair for that purpose. But so you have those guys, some icons in Iowa football that had that long flowing hair.
Why weren't they made to conform?
They weren't. They weren't. And maybe they were, and we haven't heard anything about it.
Maybe because they didn't go under oath.
There were other allegations about disparate drug testing.
Yes.
So obviously you have random NCAA testing, but coaches can always request apparently additional testing.
Yep.
And some of the players were alleging that they were singled out for additional drug testing.
Yep.
As retribution for speaking up or standing up for the treatment that they were receiving. And I think that's what it comes down to. The use of the Iowa way. The Iowa way that goes all the way back to Civil War times is, back in the case of In re Ralph.
Yep.
Maybe one of these times we'll talk about that case, is treat everybody equally regardless of race.
Yep.
And Iowa has, for as conservative as we are, if you want to put it in conservative, liberal type situations, we have always been very insistent on equal treatment of all people.
So much so that we're known to be the first to make the decisions that
nobody else wants to make.
Black people are persons, not
Yep.
property.
women can go to law school.
Yep. First woman to ever go to law school.
Gay marriage.
Yep.
Those types of things are strong in Iowa's history. So the Iowa way, to have it being used as, at least allegedly, because we don't have a definitive decision on this.
No.
So at least allegedly to be used to put people
as a weapon.
Yeah. Is concerning. And this all came about, really the lawsuit came about because of some internal reviews, right?
It sure
the
did.
School had done.
Yep.
Let's serve that up.
Okay, so 2018, not sure who, it was someone within the Big Ten, came out with findings that male black student athletes at the University of Iowa had a graduation rate of 41% compared to 77% of all student athletes.
That's terrible.
It's terrible. Bottom of the Big Ten knew there was a problem.
That sent up a flag saying, what is going on?
Yeah, and they're recruiting these young kids. Like, we all need to remember, too, these kids are right out of high school. Yep. So they're coming a lot of times away from home.
Well, some people's lives are ruined because people don't catch the ball, they fumble the ball, they miss a tackle. They're still freaking kids.
Yeah, yeah. Like, just because you put a little bit too much money on that bet doesn't mean it's their fault, okay?
You're betting on children.
Yeah. So they would come to Iowa with this, like, thought that it was going to be a great program, they were going to fit right in, and be a part of this family culture, and they were not.
They ran into a buzzsaw.
They did.
At least that's the allegations that were made is, hey, come here, we're family, we're going to treat you right, accept you for who you are.
Yep.
And then actually, no, we're going to pound you into, we want you to be somebody else.
Yeah, we're going to make your life very difficult and your educational experience. And that is why they had terrible numbers for retention rates and graduation rates both.
And so that report that gets done by somebody, I think the university.
Yep, so they created the University of Iowa task force, diversity task force, and they went and did interviews, and they found problematic behaviors that were going on.
The statistics speak for themselves.
They do.
But then ultimately what that study or what that report came out with was what's been labeled as culture suppression.
Yep.
In other words, if you may have your culture as a black athlete, but you have to give that up to conform with the Iowa way.
Yep.
And that was the big concern.
It was.
And that's what that triggered a lot of this legal action.
Yes. So then, of course, George Floyd happened, and social media became a platform for former Hawkeye football players to talk about some struggles that they had during their time in the Iowa football program. So another University of Iowa funded investigation occurred, which was, it's dated July 2020, and it's a Kansas City law firm.
Okay.
And they found that the program rules were perpetuating a culture and a program that was intentionally discriminated against their African-American players. A University of Iowa funded investigation in 2020.
Yeah.
So a few months later is when the lawsuit was filed.
Yep.
And that's really like the basis that we have for the lawsuit. And there's two external, not external for one of them, I guess, one internal, one external investigation that occurred before the lawsuit was filed.
And they're all like, this is a problem.
Yeah, everyone, they're finding problems.
So we dove into the allegations. We dove into the filings. We dove into all of that. Did we get any juice out of it?
Yeah.
I mean, we pretty much did. Now, qualifications. These are allegations. Nobody admitted anything because they never went under oath.
Yeah.
Or at least most of the defendants didn't go under oath. They avoided that successfully. So they are allegations.
Yep.
We're not saying these are facts. We are not saying any of these are facts. But we're curious, as you being an alumni. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of a fan of Iowa. If you made me choose between the two, Iowa State or Iowa, I'll take Iowa City all day. So, sorry, Mark. But we were curious, how in the hell did Iowa agree to pay $4.2 million to settle this lawsuit that their own coaches claim is bullshit?
Yep.
Which leads me to conclude that some of these allegations may have some juice to them.
Yes.
So let's talk about the juice.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
So allegations.
Allegations.
First of all, just coaches were using allegedly. All of this is alleged.
Yep.
Racial slurs. Called the African American players monkeys.
Can't do that.
What gang is he in? You're not smart. Stupid motherfucker. Go back to the ghetto. Stating an African American athlete looked like he was going to rob a liquor store while wearing Iowa football apparel.
So that was Brian Ferentz,
Yep.
the worst offensive coordinator in Division I football.
Yep.
Allegedly drove by Akram Wadley, phenomenal running back for Iowa.
Yep.
And asked him from his car if he was going to rob a liquor store.
Yes, while he was walking, I think, into the football facility.
With other white players.
Yep.
Wearing the same hats.
Yes.
Yep. Can't do that.
Not only did he say it once, they alleged that he said it twice because he didn't respond to the first one.
My other Brian Ferentz quote that was in the complaint alleged that, quote, only a dumbass black player would do it like that.
Yep.
When running a drill.
Yep.
And then in that situation, the athlete actually, who was offended by it, who was apparently allegedly messing up the drill, was told by other coaches to go back and apologize to the problem child, Brian Ferentz, for screwing up the drill.
And was told to maybe reconsider his desire to continue with the Iowa football program next year, and then got hit with the 4-hour community service.
Okay. What other allegations?
So there's allegations that race-neutral words would be disproportionately used against the black players. Motherfucker, pussy, asshole, bitch, dumbass. Most people don't get to say that on YouTube.
We're blocked. We're quoting.
Oh, gosh. He said that African-American potential athletes coming to Iowa would not bother him because he looks like a cop.
That was Brian Ferentz.
Yep. Brian Ferentz also allegedly told one of the players, I can tell by the way you're running that you've ran from the cops before.
I'm not laughing, but you can't.
I mean, it's like, honestly, just, you're an idiot.
You can't say those.
No.
If it got said, you're not only a terrible offensive coordinator, you're a terrible human being. You can't say those things.
Exactly.
Okay. So some of the allegations against Kirk Ferentz, head coach, daddy.
Yep.
Big daddy. One of the things that I regardless of the statements that got made, the allegations in the complaint, one was that the claim was that he pulled Akram Wadley's meal card privileges.
Yep.
When he supported other black players transferring out of Iowa.
Yep.
Literally, you can't eat, kid. Not on our dime.
Not anymore.
Yeah. There was another situation where allegedly a player who had issues with how they were being treated sought therapy.
Yep.
Confidential, privileged medical therapy. And Kirk shows up. The allegation was that Kirk shows up and asks the kid how his therapy sessions were going.
And then says, I heard you had some problems with how the program's being ran.
Right. So there's inside information there's concerns with breaches of privilege, medical privilege.
Yeah.
And then this is the one that chapped my ass.
Yep.
Because I think this one is the most. You can confirm this one.
Yeah, because it's news afterwards. Yeah.
Cavante Martin Manley. Remember him? Hell of a receiver, great return guy for Iowa.
I'm not going to lie. I don't remember anyone. So
this is back. This is back, I think, 2013 against Eastern Michigan. He was literally 17 yards away in punt return yards from breaking Niall Kinnick's punt return record in a game.
Yep.
They pulled him from the game.
Yep.
He did not get to return another punt. And I promise you, Eastern Michigan was punting the hell out of the ball because I looked it up. The Hawks won 59-3. There's an argument to be made. You pull your stars out when you're whomping that ass. But at the same time, if your star has a chance to break a long-standing record that goes back to World War II, you let him break the record.
Yes.
But in a press conference afterwards, Kirk says, this is verifiable, that, quote, that's one that needs to stay.
Yeah, it's going to stay.
Referring to the record.
Yep.
Meaning that doesn't go well.
No, and can you, like the heartbreak, I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So that was one of the allegations in the complaint that you can follow up and say, yep, no, that actually happened.
There were a few more that I flagged that aren't off the top of my head right. Like there's 12 plaintiffs and there's multiple investigations. There's lots of allegations. So, but these are some of them that obviously
some of your best.
Stuck out in our.
Pull out some of the best.
I don't know that I can right now.
Doyle didn't help himself.
No,
the strength coach.
When I say racial slurs, I mean racial slurs.
Like we're not, we do not have the permission to say the word that he would use repeatedly,
on a regular basis
to players. One quote that I wrote down from the complaint was, quote, "Stop walking with so much swagger before we send you back to the streets."
Yep.
Unquote. Calling them thugs, gang members, that kind of thing. And then there speaking of the disparate treatment.
Yep.
In the complaint, they show that there were like a day in the life type video of some of the football players.
Yep.
And one of the black athletes, I don't know if he was a hunter or shotgun, skeet shooting enthusiast.
He was just like he liked firearms.
He liked firearms.
Yeah.
And he had a picture. He was ripped, buff, and then he had
he's like this.
a shotgun over his shoulder, just him.
Yep.
He wasn't holding it, like it was like that.
Yep.
He wasn't, and he was not allowed. He asked for a copy of the picture because I'm sure a kid that age wanted to post it. It was a cool picture, showed his muscles and his guns.
And it's a team photographer.
That took it, and they wouldn't give him the photo, saying something about what would an 80-year-old man think about.
What would an 80-year-old white man think of this? That's what Kirk said to him.
Yeah,
also,
allegedly.
Who the fuck cares?
Right. Well, when you're getting those donations, you do care. And so, but there was another photo that was shown with 4 white players, a pickup truck.
Yep.
I want to say 2 or 3 AR-style assault rifle-looking guns, and then a couple of shotguns that they posted on social media and got no flack, no repercussions whatsoever from their postings, but yet a black kid with the shotgun over his shoulder said, no, you can't have that photo.
Yeah, and that's their basis of that lawsuit was that they had these Iowa way rules, the rules that were intended to help the athlete be a
good person,
but they weren't enforced in the same manner.
They were not equally enforced at all.
No.
The other one I had it labeled as the Trump stump.
Yeah.
Where apparently a group of the white players got permission to present a Iowa jersey to Trump at a Trump rally, There's photos of it.
There is, and they're holding a Hawks for Trump sign.
When there was a specific instruction, allegedly, and direction saying you can't use university platforms to express your political views.
Yep.
Like, they were not allowed. They were specifically prohibited from kneeling and during the national anthem, during the George Floyd thing, Colin Kaepernick, and all of that, which we can have our own debates on that. We talked about freedom of expression a few episodes ago.
But the point is different treatment.
It was the disparate treatment. It was the disparate treatment. You got any other nuggets on any other juice that you could pull?
I mean, there was a lot. I think there was a coach that was interviewed during the Kansas City law firm that came in and did a review, and he acknowledged that a lot of the football coaches would have different lists. They would have wait lists, bad kid list, bad attitude, those types of things. And the black players that weren't making weight, and they were noting that they weren't making weight, were treated differently in but in the situation, someone's sick. You're sick, you get really sick, and you lose weight.
I mean, their making weight was bulking up, adding weight.
Yes.
It wasn't like wrestlers or fighters trying to cut weight.
And it was like drinking protein shakes until you puked, forcing the black players to eat in front of the coaches, not allowing them to eat outside of the facility. It was like a atmosphere, I'm sure, to these players that felt like they were like distrusted and not to be trusted or over-controlled. But truthfully, I think like the verbal abuse that's alleged is
it's the heart of it.
The heart of it.
It's the heart of it. And you know, at some point in time, you got to wake up, hopefully, and say that what I'm curious about is what happens going forward.
Yeah.
Because I am disappointed. I am very disappointed. Like, I'm disappointed on both sides for this case. Because honestly, I would have loved for this case to go to. I would have loved for everybody to get deposed.
Yep.
I would have loved for everybody to have to produce the freaking evidence one way or the other, and then have a phenomenal trial. I would sit there, eat popcorn secretly in the back of the courtroom, even though you can't have popcorn in the courtrooms, and I would sit and just watch this shit show unfold.
Yep.
And then see what happens.
Yep.
Because that's what needs to happen in these situations. And when I look at this case, I am very disappointed, honestly, with how the plaintiff attorneys, the attorneys for the players, really failed to get the facts out there.
Yeah.
There are ways when you're involved in a lawsuit that facts can get brought out and put to the public's attention.
We do it.
We do it all the time.
And we do it intentionally.
Specifically.
You give a stack of paper where you go through and you like lay out your case for this kind of reason, honestly.
And when you look at so the defendants filed to throw the case out.
Yep.
It's called motion for summary judgment.
We love them.
We're dealing with
we have one to file on Monday, and it's Friday.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But so the defendants say these are the undisputed facts, and the plaintiff's job is to come forward and say, no, these are the disputed facts, and here's how we can support them.
Yep.
And there were, I don't know how many summary judgments motions filed in this case.
For all of the defendants.
Like a couple.
Yeah.
It seemed like motions to dismiss, motions for summary judgment,
motions to stay,
to not get deposed.
Yep.
But the plaintiff's responses, which is their opportunity to say these are the facts in taken in the best favor of us, and then to lay it out for the public,
for us to
talk about.
Yeah.
They sucked.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
We read them, and it was like, well, this study this report
Yep.
says this, and our client says this.
Yep.
And this is this, and this is. They didn't have any, like, meat.
No, and that was like you're criticizing the advocacy, the lawyering. Correct?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I actually am. I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could have or should have. If you're gonna bring this,
Yeah.
you better go find the facts.
If you're gonna blow up the University of
And
Iowa,
present the
Yeah.
facts.
Yep.
Like, I'm disappointed that you didn't do a better job of educating the public.
Yes.
Of here's exactly what was going on. We don't just sue people for racial discrimination. We prove racial discrimination.
Yep.
And you know what? We make it so they have to take the stand, and so they have to get deposed, and then we get to rake them over the coals at that point, because if they don't dispute this,
Yep.
they're screwed. To me, that's effective lawyering on a part
Yeah.
of, that's that positive impact we
Yeah.
talked about last season.
Not only are you making them get on the stand, but you're making them make changes as a result of what happens.
And you're making it unavoidable.
Yeah, because the state of Iowa is going to make you make changes.
And it's, so I was left, when we dug into this, I was all excited.
Yep.
Because I'm like, I know I'm currently putting together 250 paragraphs of actual facts.
Yep.
That anybody can read in our case, against the county, against public officials.
And you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, we'll keep it.
Someday.
Someday. It's going to be there. Because that's the important part of the case.
Yeah.
And I feel that these out-of-town lawyers,
Yep.
they're out of state, failed us
I agree.
and got paid handsomely
$1.9 million
out
in
of the
attorney's fees.
Out of the $4.2 million settlement, the lawyers took $1.9 million.
To be fair, the defendants filed enough briefs where
If you're charging out,
if you
it added up.
charged, I actually did the math yesterday. 1.9. If the attorney is billing $500 an hour, that is 3,908
Easy.
hours.
Easily
Easily.
in the case.
Yes.
So we can't say they didn't get paid the work they put into it.
And that's a common tactic of big defendants, little plaintiffs.
Yeah.
Is filing to the point where
You can't keep up.
it's not financially feasible for the lawyer to continue to respond.
And let's be honest, $4.2 million, there's a problem.
Yeah.
We don't want the public to find out about the true problem. So
My hot take in this case is that they settled this case so that they did not have to get Kirk Ferentz and his problem child on the stand.
yeah, I don't think Problem Child would do so well on the stand.
No.
So ready for the salary?
Yeah, let's talk
Quiz.
about the salary of the individuals.
$4.2 million settlement.
Not to mention, there were filings that talked about one of the defenses was that
They didn't know better.
they didn't know that it was unlawful to intentionally discriminate based on race. That's desperate to me.
You got to do better.
But let's talk about their salaries
talk
of
about their
these people
salaries.
that are claiming that.
So you weren't supposed to peek. You probably peeked.
I didn't.
You cheated.
I did not. I promise.
Okay. Gary Barta, athletic director. What do you think he makes?
I know that Kirk Ferentz is the highest paid
You're not wrong.
employee in the state of Iowa.
This is not Jeopardy. You don't get to talk through your answer.
2 million?
No.
1.
No.
1.5.
No.
3.
No. Way less. Well, so for the record, though, this is what is reported on the university's website. They have you can look up.
Oh.
So there may be compensation from other places that we don't know about, which I'll talk about when we get the Ferentzes.
Okay.
$650,000.
Okay.
So Seth Wallace. So this is a fun side note. Went to school with Seth at
Yep.
Coe College. Hell of an athlete. He played. I practiced. Right. So when I saw his name come up, I was like, oh my God, no way. We looked for dirt on Seth. I didn't find anything
Can't find it.
specific to him other than that he gained a lot of weight since his days as a receiver at Coe College. He was fast. I don't think he can run that fast now with that belly. But According to the university website, what do you think? I think he's assistant defensive coordinator / linebackers coach, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, it's still going to be just way too much money. $345,000.
Not close.
Okay.
No.
How much?
$700,000.
Hold.
Coe College needs to ask for more money from him. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
I thought we were going the other way.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Okay. Chris Doyle, strength coach, and or also known as the right-hand COO of Iowa football, if Kirk Ferentz was the CEO.
So I am going to cheat on this one
did.
because I know that he had a separation agreement of $1.1 million,
Correct.
which would not have covered the entirety of his $1.9 million 2-year contract.
2-year contract. So according to the website, his salary was $800,000.
Yep.
The problem child.
The problem child.
Worst offensive coordinator in the nation.
I know the problem child got a $75,000 raise after the allegations came up.
He rewarded us with a terrible offense. We
So,
appreciate that.
yeah. Iowa with no O.
Iowa.
Iowa. $500,000.
$900,000.
Jesus Christ.
Kirk.
$4.5 million.
You're way low.
No way.
Way low.
8.
Not quite. According to the Register, $7 million was his total package for 2022. Now, interestingly, according to
LOL. Didn't we lose to South Dakota or some shit?
I think we beat them, but
That's about it.
According to the website, the university website, though, it's only $350,000 per the website. So what happens, I think, with these contracts is there's other places that, and there's incentives and all those other things. So take the data for what it's worth. I'm citing my sources, which is University of Iowa website and or the Des Moines Register. That's what these people are making, and
these are some highly paid state of Iowa employees, and
you kind of got to know that you can't say those things.
I mean, kinda.
Yeah.
There is a portion of one of the plaintiff's filings where they say there was 3 that were saying that they were not aware that it was unlawful to intentionally discriminate based on race. These are college-educated men that are
one from a quality institution such as Coe College, which we know
fair
educates people.
But they're some of the biggest state of Iowa actors. Mm-hmm. They're acting as state actors. They 100% knew that's unlawful. That's not an excuse. And quite frankly, I'm disappointed. And I'm even more disappointed in Kirk's statement afterwards.
I don't like that. I don't like that we don't have more facts that came out because a lot of it was...
I'm sure the plaintiffs don't either.
No.
This is not a result of... This is a result of being intentionally obstructing the plaintiff's ability. Mm-hmm. That was these coaches and the University of Iowa or their lawyers or all of the above. That was their tactic to defend this. It wasn't to defend it on the merits.
It was dismiss, summary judgment. We're not deposing.
Try to avoid, which sometimes maybe tells you more than what you would actually find.
I will be curious to see what happens going forward because, as we know, going into 2023, the staff stays the same.
Yep.
The athletic director stays the same. $11 million later. What's going to happen next? And I think what I'm going to throw out there is potential plaintiffs are going to be more savvy and are going to do a better job, hopefully, of documenting what's going on, if it is going on, and then being able to, like we talked about before, handbooks, documentation, putting it together, working it up before you file a suit. And now that I'd say the cat's out of the bag.
The cat is out of the bag, and They're never going to be able to say they didn't know it was unlawful anymore.
Deliberate indifference is they don't get to run around and say we didn't know better.
Nope.
So this is going to be interesting to watch it unfold. It was interesting to actually look at the substance of the allegations. Wish we could have known more. I really do. I'm annoyed at how it all got resolved. I think Rob Sand is right. Like, I don't like agreeing with politicians ever. But how do you pay this much money and keep the same players, the same people?
Yep. Same bad actors.
The same alleged bad actors in place. To me, I look at this as if we're not going to get rid of people who can't do their job based upon performance, how about we get rid of them for how they treat people? Yeah. So I'm going to leave it at that. This was a fun, extra special, super fun.
It was. If you're at the University of Iowa and it's still going on,
document, please.
Don't call us at 1-800. Oh, that's next episode. I won't leak it.
Don't ruin it. See you guys next time. Thanks.
We can't change the past, but we will change your future. GRL Law. Thanks for tuning in to GRL Raw. Check us out at grllaw.com.